Hello. Today's lesson is lesson 4-5, use models to multiply a decimal and a decimal. The I can statement is I can use grids to model decimals and find the product of a decimal and a decimal. Push pause right now to record the lesson number, title, and the I can statement in your math notebooks. When you're ready to resume the video, press play. Today's problem is a rectangle has an area of 24 hundredths of a square meter. What are some possibilities for the length and width of the rectangle? Tell why. Solve this problem any way you choose. You may use hundredths grids if you like. Press pause to solve the video and follow directions. When you are ready to see how we solved it, press play. Okay, next we're going to solve the problem. I'll show you how I solved it. The first thing I do is use cubes, so I'm going to circle the numbers. I circled 24 hundredths. Next, I want to underline the question. It says, what are some of the possibilities for the length and width of the rectangle? Something else that is important that I need to know is I need to be able to tell why. Though it's not a question, it does tell me a direction I need to do to solve the problem. Next, I need to box the keywords. I want to box the word area because I know that's important to what I'm trying to find. I know length is important and width, and also that I'm going to be needing to create a rectangle. Next step is evaluate. When I think of this problem, I first think of the area. I know area equals length times width. I also know that when I solve this, I'm looking for a shape of a rectangle. Another thing to keep in mind is it also said possibilities. So I'm going to square that also because that tells me there may be more than one possibility for the answer. Now I want to solve. In my thinking, I want to start with what possibilities might this square be? I need to find multiples of 24. I know 1 times 24 is 24. I know 2 and 12 equals 24. I know 6 times 4 equals 24. And I know 8 times 3 equals 24. So now I want to use my grid to see which one of those may work. When I see 1 times 24, I don't think that that would work for this problem because if it is an equal rectangle, I know that one dimension would be one row starting here, and then I would need 24 squares to make it equal to 24 hundredths, and I don't have a big enough graph to make a rectangle. So I know that that would not be a solution to my problem. The same thing goes for 2 times 12. If I were to do this problem, I know that I would need 2 rows this way and then 12 going across. And knowing this is a hundreds grid, I know that it is 10 by 10. So I would have needed 2 more squares on each row. So that won't work either. So let's try 6 times 4. I think that might be a good possibility. When I do this, I think, I know I'm working with 24 hundredths. And knowing that 6 times 4 equals 24 helps me think that that might be a possibility. But now I need to note that I'm working with hundredths. I'm working with decimals. So in this square grid here on the right under the solution column, I know that this whole square equals 1 meter. This is 1 whole meter square. Every square within this grid is 100. It represents 100. To find my answer, I need to think, okay, I think that 6 times 4 equals 24, but I'm working with hundredths because each square is 100th. To try this, I'm going to start by marking 6 squares, and I have my column of tens right here. So I'm going to mark 6 squares, making that 6/10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 6/10. And then I want to go over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4/10 out of this row to create my area. So now I have 6/10 times 4/10. 6, so I have 6/10 times 4/10 equals, and I'll solve that real quick. So I have 6/10 times 4/10. 6 times 4 is 24. 0 times 4 is 0 plus 2. Then I take 6 times 0 is 0. 0 times 0 is 0. And then I want to add together 4, 2, and 0. Now I need to figure out where to put my decimal place. I have one area this way. I have another area this way, so that is 1, 2 points that I moved it over. So I know my answer would be 24 hundredths, and that's how I solve my problem. I'm also thinking it would be the same way if I were to use 8 times 3, or 8/10 times 3/10. I'm sorry, 24. Sorry, I went backwards. It would be 24 hundredths. Now it could be the same, or another possibility also. If I were to do that, I just would have had 8 going down this way as tenths, and then over 3/10. Let's see what other students did. This is Miguel's work. Miguel did his work similar to mine. He took 4/10 times 6/10 to equal 24 hundredths. So the dimensions could be 4/10 meter by 6/10 meter. He had 4/10 this way, 6/10 that way, totaling 24 hundredths. So the total area covered is 24 out of 100 squares, which again is equal to the same as 24 hundredths in decimals. The next student is Don. We'll look at Don's answer. He did it that second possibility that I briefly talked about at the end of my work. But we know 8 times 3 is 24. That is correct. But think about what the question was asking us. It was asking about 1 whole meter. So this grid right here represents 1 whole meter. In Don's work, he was working with whole numbers. So in his work, he's talking about 100 meters, and that 24 were filled in. So though he did his math correctly with whole numbers, he really didn't pay much attention to the dimensions he was working with. Because we knew that we were working with 1 whole meter, and every square in that was 100. So it really should have been 3/10 times 8/10 to equal 24 hundredths of the meter. Think about what you did and how you solved the problem. Was it similar to anything I did or the two students? Was it something completely different? Was it right or wrong? Either way, make sure that you are summarizing your thinking in your work in your notebook. Be ready to share your problem-solving methods in class tomorrow. Can't wait to see what you did.